come down, that building has come down. And it looked like, all through Ibadan. It happened in Bodija, and some people said they felt the tremor as far as Omiadio, some as far as Akobo, and all of that. So, but we'll quickly just touch base with that before we get to actual issue of the day today. But first, welcome to Panorama this morning.
That's right. Welcome to Panorama. Good morning, and thank you for joining us via your radio or our Facebook Live, where we are streaming. Splash FM 106.7 is our page on Facebook. My name is Lola Eduteni. I saw the news of what happened in Ibadan just this morning as I was catching up on, all the news stories, and I've been trying to make sense of the reports that I've seen from the newspapers, because as you said, it seems to have happened in Bodija, but even the newspapers are reporting that several other parts of Ibadan were affected, like Ologweru, Akpete, New Garage, Bashorun, Akobo, Songo, Eleyeli, and one wonders, like, these are like, different neighborhoods, different areas of the
apart,
yeah, exactly. So you wonder how one incident can link all these neighborhoods. And as the most recent reports on this is from the governor, who said preliminary investigations have shown that it was caused by explosive devices stored by illegal miners. But remember, it's just a preliminary investigation. They're still trying to ascertain the true cause or the full extent of what led to an explosion that rocked several neighborhoods.
I've also seen videos, I've seen pictures. In fact, there was a particular video of where the building, where, allegedly the diamond was stored. What was left is just a crater. The entire building came down, several adjoining buildings as well. But let's listen to the Oyo State Governor, Prince Engineer Seyi Makinde, who visited the scene this morning, before we move on to some other things on the program this morning.
And from what we've gathered so far, is that illegal miners close to around this place. We've always this is at this stage is just to rescue anyone that is still here and here, and also some of the people who have their houses destroyed, provide temporary accommodation for them uh, at hotels within the city. And then in the morning, we definitely will continue the investigation. The affected families, I'll say the government is here. We will support them in the recovery effort. But most importantly, we will react appropriately to this incident. It's just it's devastating. It's something that it's difficult to wrap one's head around this.
All right, that was Governor Seyi Makinde speaking there at the venue of the incident. And the official report from the state government also has it that as of the last time I checked, 2 people have been confirmed dead and about 77 injured. So it's a major. I saw cars on top of cars, from the impact of the blast, and it looked like a war situation from some of the videos I've seen. But when we get to the newspaper review segment, we'll speak to Splash FM Ibadan correspondent David Bello, so that we can get to our issue of the day now. We spoke to him to get his at the scene, so that we can get some actual account of what exactly the place looks like. It happened in, I think, in Adeyi, in
I saw that
Bodija,
it happened in
yes.
UCH. I don't know if,
No, no,
you know,
they took
or
some
maybe it
of
was
the
adjoining.
the injured to UCH, and there have even been calls for blood donations as well for the victims. And it again brings to question our emergency services in Nigeria, because as of midnight when I woke up and was checking, I know that several people were complaining that there were no lights. IBDC had ceased electricity for obvious reasons, and that there were no excavators at that point. There were no lights, and it looked like some people were still under the rubble. But we'll get some proper accounts much later when we get to the second segment of the program. But let's get to our issue of the day now.
All right, our issue of the day begins right about now. And just so you know, as I said, you can join us on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. I told you that the Facebook page is Splash FM 106.7. WhatsApp is 0817-555-1067. And Twitter or X is at Splash FM 1067. Yesterday, the president met with security chiefs and heads of security agencies. And top on the agenda was the increasing activities of bandits and kidnappers in the FCT, particularly and some other parts of the country. Also, the same day, Minister of the FCT convened a security meeting involving stakeholders within the FCT with a similar theme.
Recall that over the weekend, kidnappers who had abducted several members of two families killed two of them to drive home their points and even increased the ransom being demanded. They killed Folorunsho Ariyo and Nabiya Al-Kadriya. The kidnappers dumped the body of four victims they killed around a former military checkpoint behind Ida Junction on the Buhari-Jere Road in Kagako local government of Kaduna State.
In a reaction, former Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, accused security agencies of refusing to use the NIN SIM policy to fight insecurity in the country. He revealed that while in office, there were 3 instances when the policy was utilized and it led to success.
Our conversation this morning will border around these security challenges and the grave accusations made by the former minister. We have joining us this morning a former Deputy Director of Defense Administration, Dr. Kunle Olawunmi, a retired naval commodore. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here with us in the studio. So let's start by asking, what do you think is responsible for what looks like an increase in the activities of these bandits and kidnappers, even in the FCT?
Thank you very much for that question. Usually when you have a change of guard, like we've just done in about 1 year, I think it's a reason to have things like this, when Buhari, has done what I would consider his worst, there was a law. But you will say that why we're having this is because the politicians are the one that usually they're behind some of these things. So this, in a way, to discredit the new government and to let him know that he must, do what they set out to do politically, maybe, appointments, positions, contracts, and so on. They just want to let him know that he must take them seriously. Otherwise, they will make the country ungovernable for him. So usually this is a sign that politicians are usually behind these things. Just as Buhari was leaving, there was a lull in the activity. Now they've studied the new government and they want to put him on pressure. That's one way. I think the second thing I will attribute is, one, is too early to review Tinubu now. However, there are things that he ought to have done to put some of these, criminals, I would call them, to order. Because before Buhari left, you remember that there were issues about the sponsors of this program. And Buhari government told us that he has arrested about 400 of them. And I think another country, arrested a few of them. That's Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and actually sent their names to our security, and even the president then. The listeners should ask fundamental questions. Those 400 people that were arrested by Buhari government and those ones that were sent to us by Abu Dhabi, they should just ask a simple question from Tinubu. Where are those people? Have they left the country? Where are they? Why are they not tried? Because as I said about 2 years ago, if you focus on those people that are using dollars to buy arms, weapons, and sponsoring this narrative, this issue could have reduced. Now they have become audacious, they can kidnap people, kill them, dump them, and walk away. The third attribute would be lack of political will and the kind of approach that Tinubu is also using. Tinubu has continued to use the same approach Buhari was using, and that's not going to help him. I'm just waiting for some time before because I'm watching the way and the means he's using. It has not changed very much from Buhari's tactics. You can't continue to buy weapons, recruiting people, doing the same thing. It didn't work, and you keep on doing the same thing. If you keep on doing the same thing and you're expecting a different result, it's foolhardy. I think he should focus on a different perspective, which I will say in case some of them are listening to me. He should focus on intelligence and Air Force. This is not an army, police, navy expenditure. It has to do with Air Force and intelligence. Because what we need to do is to have the command and control of your airspace. But you can trace the person to where the victims, and if they kill them as they've done, we can trace them to where they, kill these people and bring them to the road to dump their dead bodies. I don't see why we cannot do that. There are equipments that even Kenya are using against Al-Shabaab. There are the same equipment they are using even in Iraq now. And if you go to Afghanistan, they are using the same equipment and they are in the markets. And we have intelligence operators that can man these equipment that you can see these people real time, just like I'm looking at you now. So, but if you keep on sending troops into the bush and they, ambush them, kill them, and they are just moving about with tactics, is to go after the people that are sponsoring these narratives, and I think we have respect.
Right. With your background in matters of security, do you think that this escalating spate of abductions in the FCT is particularly troubling? Many are saying with the FCT being the seat of power, being home to the president and, being the capital of the country and where many government agencies are, that this is brazen of the kidnappers to, even dare to bring their menace to Abuja. Do you think that it's particularly symbolic that it's happening in the FCT, or we should be just as concerned if it was happening in any other states?
No, that's a great question, because that question will give our audience the information that everything that you see in Nigeria is political. And it's very important, because your question now can make us ask for that question. Why Abuja? It's easier to go to Zaria, Kano, where you don't have so much, resistance from the security architecture around Abuja. But for you to focus on Abuja and doing what you're doing is political. Now, as an intelligence analyst, you can trace that back to the fact that these people are sponsored by politicians. And that's very fundamental. It's political. I mean, they kill people will lose their lives, but you see, when I talk on radio, I'm trying to calm down because I usually discuss the remote causes of issues. The immediate cause is that, maybe they want to make money. They kidnap people and they ask for ransom. Then we focus on that. So how do we do it? Well, people will be saying, maybe we should get more police, get more army. But that's not the issue. The remote cause of this is political. So what you need to do is just to track their phone, use electronic means, signal intelligence, use human intelligence as much, and just special intelligence that can fish out all these people. Do we have that capacity? Yes, we do. Now, why are we not? Then Tinubu has to look inwards and look at those ministers and, DG of MDAs that is putting in position. These people are usually compromised. I mean, MTN, all those communication systems, they can track the movement of all these people, even without really using the military grade, systems, So if you make somebody minister of communication and bandits or criminals are communicating with parents and you cannot track them to the spot, then the minister of communication or information or whoever is responsible for such spectrum, should resign. I don't want to be too hard on Tinubu yet, but I think the NSA should be queried. If you're a national security advisor, what's your job? To sit in an office, wear agbada and be collecting money and flying here and there? In some crimes and welfare of the citizen. That's why you pay tax. That's why you see people chasing you up and down to pay your tax and do this, and they don't allow you to even enjoy your business. So when you pay tax and you now relinquish your sovereignty to the government, and the government seems to be asleep all the time, and people are not properly, sanctioned for lethargy, when you are incompetent, If you are given a responsibility as national security advisor, or you are given a responsibility as Director General of Department of State Services, and this is happening in Abuja in the past 2-3 weeks, and it's escalating, and you are sitting there, you don't have business there. Because it's not, of course, they say security, it's a function of everybody. That's everybody. If you see something, say something. But people are paid, trained to perform these duties. And if they are failing, these are realities. These are resigning their appointment. And if they don't, I think maybe Tinubu should start thinking of changing some of them. Either they are expired or they're actually not competent, because the Federal Capital Territory is like our symbol of authority. And this is being raped, and people are responsible. I don't want to talk about the Army, Navy, Air Force, because I'm starting talking about the Brigade of Guards, because I know the security architecture of Abuja, how it is set up. Brigade of Guards has a lot of roles. They command and control Abuja territory. Police are there, but I think it's issue of command and control, When I talk about the initiation of intelligence operations, it's from the direction. Who is giving direction? Is it the commander-in-chief? Is it the national security advisor? What kind of direction is the DGSS giving his men? Because the way it works is that you work from that position of direction. The commander's intelligence requirement. What is the intelligence requirement of the DGSS to his own men at his own level? What is the direction given by the national security advisor to all the head of security agencies? What kind of direction is he giving them? What was the objective of that direction? What is the end state? What does he expect at the end? So there are these operational imperatives that I think sometimes is lacking because of ignorance lack of strategic education in issue of security. Because if you give the wrong direction, whereas if you tell me to sleep, I sleep. Well, if you don't even know how to tell me to jump, I may be hesitant, I may be hesitant because I don't really understand what you're saying. Do I jump or do I skip? The direction must be very clear and succinct. So some of these people that have found themselves in power, they think they are there to make money and they focus on making money. Otherwise, by now, I think some of them should actually leave their position by resigning honorably for not being able to perform their roles.
Right. Let's look at some of the attacks, the abductions specifically that have happened in the FCT since the president's administration began. Here are some that are known to us. On the 17th of September 2023, 19 people were kidnapped in Abuja while gunmen took away 20 residents of Madaki, Manasseh, and Gambo communities in Kuje. On the 12th of December, 23 residents in the Buari area, which is also the same area where the Ariyo and Al-Qadriya families were abducted from. But on December 12th, 23 residents in the Buari area of Federal Capital Territory were abducted, while a nursing mother and 3 children were also taken away by gunmen in Abuja on the same day in December. And then, of course, you have the January 11th attack that saw the abduction of 11 people from the same compound also happen.
So let's look at the statement made by Professor Isa Ali Pantami. And this is not the first time that, I recall that General Danjuma at the time also talked about possible collusion and all of that. So where does that leave us as a nation, if indeed we have the tools at our disposal that can help curb some of these security challenges that we have, but for some reason it looks like they are not being utilized?
I'm very reluctant to talk about Isa Pantami on air, because if you talk about Isa Pantami, I think you are giving him undeserved recognition and attention. I think we shouldn't talk about him. And I have my reasons for that. A lot of money went into that project, and they ate a lot of money, so I don't want to talk about them. I think we should just try to focus on how to help the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, give him some inroads into how he should face some of these criminals, because whatever is happening, as I said, is political. I'm not really a fan of the FCT minister, the current one, but I think he's doing a good job. And being an analyst, I won't be surprised whether some of this attack is targeted at him, because in the long run, if the situation deteriorated further, the Commander-in-Chief may be forced to declare a state of emergency in FCT, and definitely that's the end of the road for the FCT minister, because he's been seen almost like a governor. That I don't want to mention his name on air too, because I'm not really a fan of some of the things they do. So some of the activities he has been doing the past few months, has affected a lot of business people, all those people that always think that they are above the law. The man has, sort of fringe on their territory. And that's why I always say that some of these things you are seeing are political, because what the President and Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces should do now is to declare a state of emergency where the garrison commands and the military should start taking charge of affairs there. It's also an indictment on my brother, who is the Inspector General of Police. He has to shape up I'm sorry if I try to avoid your question because I think discussing Buhari, people, and the government is...
Right. Is one that, that is ongoing. Even as we speak, there have been reports of people's lines being barred because there's a new deadline that says if you don't connect your NIN to your SIM or your SIM to your NIN or you don't verify your number, then your line is going to be barred by, I think, end of February or March this year. And so you've seen queues of people again rush to some of these telcos to verify their line and ensure that they are not barred. So this is a policy that, Nigerians have largely adhered to. As at December last year, the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, said that the number of Nigerians that now have a national identification number is up to 104.16 million Nigerians, with 10 million people registering last year. And this was a policy that was spearheaded under Professor Pantami's, under his administration, his ministry, his control of the ministry when he was at the helms of affairs. So he said that this policy can be used to effectively track kidnappers. He said that the information from the NIN SIM, because ostensibly these kidnappers contact the families by calling them and demanding their ransom. And so if their phone numbers are linked to the NIN, then it should be easy to, trace them and find out who the perpetrators are. And what Professor Pantami also said was that it had been used in 3 instances successfully to rescue the victims. So does this hint at connivance, or does it hint at a lack of political will that the NIN SIM linkage policy is not being used as one of the intelligence tools to arrest the perpetrators of abductions?
Yeah, you are still dragging me to Pantami. Okay, Pantami was... I don't want to talk about it, but Pantami was there for how many years under Buhari? This were going on. Why didn't he use his NIM and all this nonsense he's talking about? Why didn't he use it under Buhari? I mean, it was worse during Buhari's time, and he was the minister. So why he's giving us 3 instances? Why can't he use this? What he was talking? Why can't he use it then?
So you're saying he was culpable as well?
It's beyond that. I don't want to talk about them on the air. It's beyond that. If I tell you about Pantami now, he's going to... Can
the present Minister of Communications use the NIN SIM policy?
Let me tell you what is going on is beyond that. And we don't have enough time for me to express my knowledge on electronic intelligence, communication intelligence, the application of those things. We also talk about signal intelligence. I'm on the air now. I mean, there are people that are listening and picking information and trying to analyze everything I'm saying here. I don't want to go into the details. These are very literate people that are just talking because they have access to media. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. His professorship was buried and all this. That's the kind of character you want me to be talking about. And I don't want to say things that I know about some of them. But you see, let me tell you, that is just a very small aspect of the solution that is making noise now. I was in places, I don't want to mention, that there's even no light at all. There's no electricity. And I don't want to put it in percentage because I like to post the right data. There are places I've been to in this country that there is no signal. You can't even receive, there's no MTN, there's no Glo, nothing. I've been to places where 80% of the human beings that are living in the particular community don't even have access to telephone. They cannot afford to buy telephone. The people that are kidnapping will collect the telephone of their victims and use it to communicate. So the level of signal intelligence or the communication intelligence or electronic intelligence we are talking about, what he's talking about is so pedestrian. Because they don't. It's not enough for you to say, okay, you trace something. Most of these kidnappers, they even ask you to transfer money to an account. If you transfer money to an account, why is it difficult for the CBN also? It's not. What he's talking about is a very small aspect. You understand? And these people kept on moving the bush. If I pick you up in Abeokuta, I will take you to Ibarapa. From there, I take you to Adodo. I keep on moving you up and down. And sometimes their communication, they are very smart. If I'm here in this studio and I want to, with the victims, I will not stay here and communicate with you. I will go to Pansheke. I will go and talk to you from Pansheke. You track me to Pansheke, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, immediately I finish communication, I destroy the SIM, I throw away the phone, I track back to your studio. Pantami is just an ignorant person that doesn't understand how we use some of these things. It's not as simple as it's making it to look. And I think we shouldn't give him too much airtime. Sincerely.
Is there a lag in intelligence in Nigeria? Because in all of this, the word intelligence keeps, coming up in the conversation. So, is there a lapse in intelligence gathering in Nigeria?
I think we are not utilizing up to 15% of the capacity of ELINT, SIGINT, COMINT, geospatial. We're not even utilizing 15% of the spectrum. Of course, when I was there, I tried to bring this one out. At least we can target the kind of challenges we have in Nigeria, So there are equipments and things you need to buy. If I tell you something, you may not be surprised. In early 90s, specifically 1991, 1992, I was the staff officer, security and technical at our security group in our Papa then. We call it Annex. Just like you have the security group for the army in Papa and so on. The Navy also had. The equipment we had then is much, much better, much, much robust than what I started using in 2003, 2004. It's just corruption. Because I tell you about remote causes of problem. It's just corruption. Why should we have a better equipment in 1990? I'm talking about 1991, 1992, even from 90. I don't want to reveal certain things that we do. I can shut down this your station in 1991. I can make people not to hear you again. And I don't need to come near you. I do that. We can make NTA, Channel 5, Channel 10 to stop talking. Why? What has gone wrong? It's just corruption. They allocate money for some of these things. And people just sit down and because they are minister of that one, minister of defense, Senate committee on this one, they just sit down and share money. And it's just corruption. It's not like we don't have people. If, as at that time, okay, let me mention specific because time has passed. Ejigbo crash. Some of you that are journalists, you must have heard about Ejigbo crash in Lagos. I was on duty the day that thing crashed. And I could, because that's my job, I monitor everything that goes on in our airspace. And I could listen to the two pilots talking in the cockpit. And I could monitor from the time they took off till they crashed. I was listening to them. Can we do that now? And that's how I got to know that the plane has crashed. Because I had the two pilots, Mama G and Lagbosun, talking to themselves. I could listen to them. Can you do it now?
Well, one would assume that the technology should have gotten more sophisticated and advanced with time.
That's what I'm telling you, that is corruption. They don't buy the equipment. They allocate money at they allocate money. You see the budget, defense budget every day is going up. They just share the money. They don't buy it. And even if they do, they buy the very substandard Chinese, stupid Taiwanese equipment. Then we go to, I don't want to talk too much on here. We go to Germany. Then we fly to Germany and go and get equipment, attaché cases, and so many technical equipments, because I was in charge of the technical side.
Right.
Now you go to, they will do budget and say, okay, we're going to buy from the United States of America, or we are going to France. But once the money is released, they hijack the money and they go to Dubai or go online to Jumia and buy some substandard equipment for the people. It's just corruption. That's the summary.
Now, looking at the plight of the Al-Qadria family and the Arios, when they were abducted and the father was returned back to deliver the message, the ransom message, that they were asking for 60 million naira for all 6 members of the family each, amounting to 360 million naira. The case made its way to social media and somebody started a crowdfunding where anyone, any sympathetic stranger could donate money to the ransom, to contribute to the 60 million naira each for every member of the family. However, the kidnappers reportedly then raised the ransom demand from 60 million naira apiece to 100 million naira to each member of the family, for each member of the family, amounting to 700 million naira. And, well, from all indications, it appears that they got wind of the fact that people were now donating to the money and will probably thought, oh, if you can donate 60 million naira, then you can donate 100 million naira. When it comes to cases of abductions, it is often said that or even not just abduction, just generally security issues, it is often said that security agencies do not handle these matters with enough discretion. Is there a way, like, for example, could attention be negative in this instance? Do you think that the fact that they turned it into a crowdfunding thing, it resulted in this negative outcome? Or do you think that there's no such thing as negative publicity where such matters are concerned? And is there any way that, say, the Nigerian police could have prevented that? Because it wasn't the police that brought it on social media. It was, well-meaning family members.
I will also answer you by pointing to the remote causes of things you are saying. This is just an indication that Nigeria is failing. This country is failing. It's a failed state already. Because when the security architecture has collapsed as it were now, and people now resort to self-help, that's an indication that the state has failed. And it's a matter of time if Tinubu does not pay attention. And if some of us that try to point the direction to them sometimes because of the arrogance and when you have too much money and power, sometimes you're arrogant, you don't listen. He should take notice that Nigeria is failing under his watch. And he should take necessary steps because it's just a matter of time before we get to a point where, let me just limit it by saying a point of no return. We have not crossed the Rubicon. We are about to. And once we cross it, all the indices are already set. I said somewhere that Clausewitz, has this, theory of a society, where it tells you that a society is made up of 3 things: the people, the government, and the military. Already you can see signals from the military, by being disrespectful. That is not the military, Once you see the military men, having the audacity to come out and abusing governors and making them look as if they are just rats, it's not a good sign. I'm not supporting what the military guy did. It's indiscipline. If I'm in the system, I will call that guy not to order him, but now he should be out of the service anyway. But if you seek this kind of impunity by the military guys, and if you study the Clausewitz theory of the triangular, the trinity, the military is the anchor for the government. The people in Nigeria today are very disenchanted. They are not happy. They are frustrated. And if you have a three-legged community or a society or a nation, as Clausewitz enunciated, that we have a triangle where you have the people at the peak, the military, then you have the government. And the two actors within that sphere are already showing sign of disaffection. The politician has to take notice. They should stop all this arrogance that they can run away. Maybe if there's problem now, they can fly private jet to Dubai. I have been sent outside Nigeria to go and bring people in. I was in the system when they sent people to London to bring Umaru Diko and so on. I've gone to Brazil at a time to plan to bring some people here. I've been to South Africa, Angola. If there's nowhere you can run to with all your money, what we need to do, we have no bar. We can write to any government to extradite you. So when you start seeing this kind of thing, if you notice, I'm trying to answer not directly. It's not that because if I answer directly, you may not get the point, or our listeners may not get the point. The society is crumbling. The country is failing. But the politicians, their ears are deaf. Their perception is skewed because some few people that I call them Bewudani in Yoruba, those people that just run after them and saying Rakadede, they get carried away. They should come outside and test their popularity. So the point is, they should take notice that this country is failing and they should take necessary steps. Whatever is happening in Abuja, kidnapping, even what happened yesterday, I don't know whether we're going to talk about it, it will show you that the country has failed. Because there are processes for you to import ordinances into the country. There's what we call the end user certificates. This was my job when I was deputy defense attaché in France. Anything that is an ordinance that have other high explosives or otherwise, there are procedures and processes. This thing came into Nigeria, passed through the airports. The customs will collect their money, police will collect their own bribe on the way. They now took it to a residential place. And there's nobody that ensure that from the airport, Ikeja, to that house in Ibadan, they can trace the location. This is how terrorists also get access to explosive making devices. So the country has collapsed. It has collapsed because how can you impose that heavy, high explosives content? You can move it around to the point that the house, National Security Advisor, you can see what happened. But if I want to investigate this thing, I'll trace it to National Security Advisor's office.
So it was negligence on the parts of many.
It's corruption. It's not negligence. You can. If there's a difference between lethargic attitude and corruption. I can be lethargic because I'm lazy. But if I open my eyes and collect hundreds of thousands of dollars to intentionally allow you to pass through, that explosive pass Lagos Ibadan Expressway to Ibadan, they offloaded it. There are procedures. There's somebody that's supposed to follow them to ensure that it is properly stored. Storage is one of the fundamental principles of keeping explosives. We must follow you and see that, okay, first of all, we must ensure that you have a proper place to can store it. The temperature, everything, humidity are measured.
Couldn't it have been smuggled in undetected? Or is it too large to escape detection?
What's the meaning of smuggling? Illegal transit.
Yes. So, meaning
through where?
Our borders are often said to be porous. It's said that we're not manning all our borders. So
when I smuggle rice from Benin Republic, I have to bribe the customs. Okay? That's meaning of smuggling. It means I'm bribing people to have my way to bring in illegal thing. So whether you say they smuggle in or it comes in through proper something, there are security agencies that are involved along the line, collecting money. Are you following me? And some of them should lose their job. But you see that the governor of Ibadan, for your state, will just talk the way he's talking, yeah. And then by tomorrow, they bury people that are dead, and then the life continues.
All right. When the Plateau issue happened, over Christmas, there were renewed calls, and it's not the first, for Nigerians to be allowed to carry weapons, allow Nigerians to carry weapons. Do you think that is a way to go that could maybe solve some of these challenges that we have? Or maybe we'll be creating some further problems?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it's something that is going on, and there's a lot of debate. Even the United States, it's not all the states in the United States that allow people to carry weapons, because it's not very easy to monitor what they do with it. I've said somewhere that I was attacked by people sometimes, and the weapon that was used on me was a police weapon. The marked, that submachine gun they used to take, and so if police can hire their weapons out to criminals to attack citizens, so what stops people that are licensed with guns to hire them out for operations? That's number one. Number two, if you should carry a weapon, I know the society will say, yes, if we have a weapon, we can fight them. But the people that are really qualified to be licensed will never get that weapon. They'll be so frustrated. They will frustrate them. The system we have now will frustrate them. They will never get that weapon. Do you know those people that will get the weapons? The criminals. Because governors, senators, ministers, we get like 1,000 licenses using the names of their thugs, those thugs that follow them, They will use their names, they will license them. They will give those criminals weapons, so that during the next election, they will intimidate their opponent. So people like you that, you are educated, you have family you want to protect, you will not get that license. You will bribe your way, police will collect IPO, this one. To even fill the form, you will pay. They will frustrate you. You won't get it. But suddenly you see that all the political talks, they have weapons, which they can hire out for more criminal intent. So for me, if I want to advise on that issue, we are not ripe for that now. We don't have a system, a structure that have that capacity to manage that. There will just be anarchy all over the country. Opponents will be killing themselves, political talk. There will be anarchy. They should not even think, they should stop thinking about it.
All right, let's see if we can take maybe one or two calls, because our guest has some other appointment. He has to push some appointment forward to be here this morning, so we have to release him once we wrap up the first segment. 0817-555-1067, 0817-444-1067. You can also call 0705-050-1067.
Or send your messages to social media instead. WhatsApp is 0817-555-1067. 0817-444-1067 is one of the call lines, and 0705-050-1067. Facebook is Splash FM 106.7, and Twitter 67 hashtag. Good morning. What's your name? What is your name? Where are you calling from? All right. Sorry about that. Call us back as soon as the network has eased. Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everyone in the studio.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
From Shagawide.
You have a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah. I greet our guest. Good delivery, sir. Well done. God is your strength. I just want to chip in something. There's this report of recent that the from presidency is saying that they should, more youth should come in to what's it called, security operatives, by trying to train, to make some changes in our security architecture. Me, layman, as a layman, let me use it that way. In my own opinion, it's a good, how am I going to put it, development. Do you know why? Even if we decided to go and hire machinery, those machinery, they train them. You understand? So if we can be able to train ourselves, the only thing the presidency can be able to do is just to be patriotic enough to give them a kind of sophisticated weapon that they can be trained with, and they can be able to be, bring a kind of experience as the Western world. You understand? If they can be able to do that, why can't we youth or care about or the Nigerians are ready, to defend their country? I think it's a good development. If people look at it deeply. Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution.
We have to go on a commercial break, so we'll head on to that break. But let's thank our guest for his time on the program this morning. Our guest has been Dr. Kunle Olawunmi, who is a former Deputy Director of Defense Administration and a retired Naval Commodore. Thank you very much, sir, for your time and your insights.
Thank you for having me.